I'm just coming off of my Twitch live stream where I listened to Eminem's new album, The Death of Slim Shady, COUP de Grâce, together with y'all, and this is basically my first thoughts after my first listen, so keep that in mind. It's not a full analyze, deep dive review. That will probably follow in the coming weeks, but today we're just going to go over this album and why he definitely proved me wrong with the worries that I had, so let's jump straight into this. If you want to stay up to date with everything surrounding hip-hop, make sure to subscribe and also become a part of this community by joining our Discord server in the description. So it's crazy to even think about that we're, talking about a new Eminem album and to talk about the death of Slim Shady, and honestly I can already say it's hard to talk about this. There's so much to this record, a lot of dense verses in there that definitely need time to really fully develop and fully get people to understand them. But let's go through the track list and talk about each track and see what makes it honestly a pretty good album. So the first track, Renaissance, kind of a short track, but it definitely kicks off with us getting introduced to Slim Shady again, that Slim Shady is making a reappearance on this record, and he did say before it dropped that this is a conceptual record, so we needed to listen to it in order, which is definitely a good advice to anybody wanting to listen to this, because we go through a couple of different phases of that interaction between M and Slim, but it is really nice to hear that. Now, this was also the Graveyard trailer with him spitting on the grave. We have a Slim verse and then a newer Eminem verse, and that is something that spans across this entire record. It really gets, real intense on tracks like Lucifer Antichrist or also Guilty Conscience 2, where we have Eminem and Slim Shady trading bars back and forth. It gets real intense. But on this one, I also wanted to mention there was this one bar that got misunderstood by a lot of people that said that he was dissing Kendrick, and I thought that at first too. But when you take a look at the lyrics, he is saying that from somebody's perspective that he doesn't respect. Let's be going though. We have 19 tracks in total, so we need to move a little bit quicker. Habits is the second track. It features vocals from White Gold, who performed well. He's also on another track on the record. Although sometimes these Eminem songs can get quite generic ever since the 2010s, with him taking over the verses and then getting on a vocalist that does the hook. It's kind of the same structure. It's still good though. I think Habits is a song that he definitely wanted to stir some controversy in, because he's going against Bruce Jenner with a couple of savage bars. He's also taking some shots at pronouns and cancel culture, PC. So we can see he's very aggressively wanting to get canceled, which was the idea of this whole album, to be so offensive, to be so controversial that he gets canceled. I mean, just announcing that already kind of pulls you out of that, so people are going to go into this album expecting that, and then they're not going to be as surprised when something completely out of pocket comes, like a couple of bars on here, but still. Now, there's also this one part on this record where, Slim Shady said, "You missed me," so we can definitely see him getting back into there. And one thing that is definitely also evident on this track and spans across the entire record, it's almost ironic, I gotta say, that an Eminem record is definitely carried by him and his verses and his lyrics, because the beat selection on some of these tracks is honestly just, it's questionable to even put that on the record. There are a couple of good instrumentals, but Habits, I don't know, man. I wouldn't put that as the first real track on my record, but obviously I'm not Eminem, but you know what I mean? Anyway, let's keep going. Trouble, a really short track where he's, again, just completely out of pocket, going out against blind and deaf people and little people, and just completely, I don't know what he's doing on here. We go over into Brand New Dance, which is definitely reminiscent of Square Dance, of some old Slim Shady style, and I would never have thought that we would have a song like this in 2024 with that old Slim Shady style. Definitely something that I was very excited about. The next track, Evil, again has that mix of M and Slim Shady trading bars back and forth. There's also a bunch of controversial lines on here. I can't obviously cite them all because there's a bunch on this record. We're going to talk about the most outrageous ones, but they're also on here. Then we had a little skit, All You Got, where Slim is telling Eminem that he's all he got. So Eminem without Slim Shady wouldn't be as successful and wouldn't be at the place that he is at today. which is correct. And I think that also sets up the rest of the record, which then I think comes to the climax on Guilty Conscience 2. But before that, let's talk about Lucifer and Antichrist, two songs that go hand in hand. Trading bars again on Lucifer, some PC Police bars again where he's talking about, you know, some modern stuff that he doesn't like. And then it transitions into Antichrist. And there's one part on here where it's saying Marshall is the Antichrist. It's very interesting. I still don't know what to make of it. You know, considering that Slim would be Lucifer and then M is Antichrist. I don't see that connection yet. Let me know how y'all interpreted that. I guess I gotta listen to it a couple of more times, which I definitely will. Beat selection again on here, kind of whack to be honest. We also have him branching out against Gen Z and pronouns again, kind of what he's been doing in the entire record. And there was this one Diddy bar in here again, which he dissed Diddy like 3 times on this record. Immediately then again on the next track, Fuel, where he had this savage bar about, you know, and he missed a P, did he, P Diddy, and missing the P, rapper without the second P. It was clever. That was a good diss. I like that. That was set up nicely and then came through correct on that bar. I like that. Now also we have JID on this track, which is big for JID. I'm a big JID fan. I was at his concert last year. So to have Eminem to have JID on this record is a huge honor for JID, considering that he is also heavily inspired by Eminem. And just the pure display of skill that we've had on Fuel is breathtaking. So Fuel is definitely an amazing track. The next track, Road Rage, has a feature from Sly Piper. They're going against trans people. They're going a whole bunch against overweight people, to the extent that you're like, why don't you just stop? Your entire verse was against overweight people. It's crazy, but it's what he was trying to do with this record. Anyway, next track, Houdini. I gotta say, it fits in pretty well with the record, even though I was critical of it. It's not my favorite track by any means, though. Then we have the breaking news skit, where we have this news report that I was already talking about again, for M canceling himself, which is what he's been doing up to this point, very obviously, or trying to do. So I guess it's just a manifestation of that. And then we get into probably the most loaded track of the entire album, which is Guilty Conscience 2, which did have some sort of weight on its name because Guilty Conscience is the song off of the Slim Shady LP from '99 with Dr. Dre. This is not with Dre, though. We don't have any Dre feature on here, at least on the surface. We thought that there would be Dre and Snoop kind of also working on the record. That wasn't the case. They never made a single appearance. But Guilty Conscience 2 is such a loaded track because, again, he's going against everybody, against any minority that he can think of. But then it's also Eminem going against Slim. And Slim being the guilty conscience in his head. M is accusing Slim of all the stupid stuff that he made him do back in the day. And then Slim is also knocking back at M and saying, like, without me, you're just a loser. You don't have any friends. Nobody cared about you. You wouldn't dare to say what you think. And it is that dynamic that then reaches the climax with Slim getting killed off. And I guess that is the death of Slim Shady then, which then goes on a little bit further, but I guess that is the climax that we were all looking forward to. And it's crazy to have this kind of conversation with yourself, with the two identities that he's created. This is also extremely critical reflection from Eminem to, you know, kind of go into debate with his own guilty conscience with Slim Shady, and he has to acknowledge that Slim Shady is the character that made him pop off, but also made him do a bunch of dumb shit. And to then also reflect on, without Slim Shady, he would have just been somebody that, you know, was a loser. Nobody cared about him. But with Slim Shady, it also led to a lot of controversial things, and him, you know, almost losing his life because of the persona and the life that he created, not being there for his daughters, all the stuff that he talks about in his music. So this was, I mean, this is the most loaded and probably the best track on this record, at least for me. And that was hard to do because we all were expecting crazy stuff from Guilty Conscience 2 because of it being the sequel to Guilty Conscience. And he did come through. That's crazy. The next track is Head Honcho, which features Easy Mill, the guy that's signed to M. It has a Spanish verse on there. We can tell M wants to put him on. We also had this one bar in here that kind of hit me unexpectedly, where M was bragging about money, which is something that he doesn't do a lot. But guess he's doing that now. Maybe we can interpret this as like the downfall after Slim Shady got killed off, but that is complete speculation. Next up, we got Temporary, and this completely changes everything again. I would say we can just, we could just delete Head Honcho and it would be a better album, to be honest. Because after Slim Shady gets killed off and we can see him reflecting on his life, we have Temporary. This is a song for Haley, his daughter. We can't have an M album without a beautiful song for his daughter. We have Skylar Grey on the vocals, who delivered again. And it starts out with the same vocal inflections that he had on When I'm Gone, but now it's Now That I'm Gone. And the whole record is just about, him reflecting on his daughter growing up. And he's always talking about it from the perspective of him being dead already. And that's a very powerful track for Eminem and for the fans, and I guess is also one of the favorites on here. Then the next track, Bad One, is a big switch from the previous. We have this one Ye bar on here when Ye forgot to take his meds. We also have bars on here like people think they want the old me till they get him, maybe also referring to Slim Shady being, coming back, which also wasn't one of my favorites, especially because after that, it's immediately into Toby again, which is kind of a different vibe. So Bad One could have also been deleted out here. Now about Toby though, because we talked about it beforehand, it gets more obvious to me that this would have needed to pick up a little more, because then it also would have fit in with Bad One before that a little better. It's still a good track, but it becomes more obvious when you listen to it in the track list that it would have needed to pick up a little more pace. Then we have Guess Who's Back, where Ken is making a comeback, which is insane. Haven't heard a skit with Ken in a long time. This was definitely a fan gift that he gave us, so that was amazing. And the last track, Somebody Save Me, sounds like the last two tracks on Revival, so Castle and A Rose. It's a song about Haley again. We have a Jelly Roll feature on here. Also beautiful track. As I said, the second track about Haley, his daughter. Just beautiful. You need to listen to these tracks. They're obviously very personal. They don't fit in with the entire Slim Shady concept, at least on the surface. I guess when you kind of dissect it a little bit, you can tell that, to me it seemed like those tracks coming after Guilty Conscience 2 being like, okay, both Slim Shady and Eminem, as much as they are in conflict with each other, they just want that their daughter Haley is doing well, and that the family's fine. So I guess that is something that you can tell. Now, this entire record, obviously, it's a lot to take in. He definitely wants to be controversial, which could be good, could be bad, but I guess it worked in a way, especially because in the first half of the album, it was just so blatantly obvious, to the point where you're like, come on, man, just being like, I hate deaf people, but it works. It works in the way that you then have tracks like Guilty Conscience 2 or Temporary, where you can see that it's not just, I'm just fuck everybody. So, I need to listen to it a couple of more times, but it did prove one thing. It did prove one thing, that Eminem could bring back Slim Shady whenever he wanted. And he did that. And also the fact that we have different vocal effects and mixing on the M vocals and the Slim Shady vocals makes it easier for us to kind of distinguish who is who, which makes it a lot easier and more fun to listen to. But this proves that he could bring him back, and I think that is what he wanted to prove. Now let's see where this goes on from here. There's a little bit of a longer video now, but I also want to know what y'all think about this. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? What's your favorite track on here? And do you agree with a bunch of the stuff that I said interpreting this album, or do you have completely different interpretations? That I definitely want to know in the comments down below. If you watched this video to the end and liked it, and you want to stay up to date with all current hip-hop events and releases, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, hit that like button, and go follow my social media, and most importantly, join my Discord in the description. Until the next one, you'll have an incredible day, and y'all take care.